Ugliness is rebellion. Perhaps our fatal flaw as human beings is that we can never admit that ugly things are ugly. Every third article on my newsfeed is trying to convince me that the bruise marks some singer got as penance from her abusive lover make her all the more stunning. Or how a starving refugee has the most beautiful eyes, which is of course secondary to the fact that she is, starving. So I'm wondering why we are so desperate to enforce the idea that no matter how ugly the circumstances, you are still beautiful. Are we really hoping that beauty will redeem us from the failures of our own wishful logic? I've been wondering if that's all we are as human beings. Idiots that are all too desperate to shove abstractions into an exclusive, fragile box known as beauty. We unpack this box in places it doesn't belong. Like an alcoholic that plunders dusty cupboards for bottles that no longer exist, we wake up thirsty for beauty, devastated by how it escapes our bedsides at night. And everything that we have bastardized for the sake of this addiction borders on self-destruction much the way we do. Maybe that is all we are as human beings. Wretched, two-legged creatures teetering on the edge of a logic they can no longer maintain. Nuclear explosions, poverty, war, abuse, depression, opulence. How much does it take to call an ugly thing ugly? Maybe what it takes is bravery. And God knows human beings are not brave enough to admit that not everything can yield to our logic the way we want it to. God knows, because God is a perfect example of that. Because ugliness is rebellion. Ugliness is resistance. The depressed body that sleeps days away and worries deep into the night stutters against time. No, my body won't bow to numbers that you are servants of. No, my body will not give in to minutes that only eat away at my skin. Ugliness rebels in the face of our desperate attempt to believe that things last forever. Love that blooms steady over years and then suddenly rots into a cycle of abuse and hatred screams at itself. No longer do I want to be a concept that only pacifies human beings anymore. No longer will I give them the comfort of forgetting survival under the facade of my existence. No longer do I want to let them forget that I am, after all, a utilitarian invention. Let heartbreak remind them of Darwin, and how we only seek the fittest amongst the lot like the animals we like to think we aren't. Ugliness is a resistance movement that fundamentally ruptures the comfort of our middle-class lives. It endangers our middle-class values, our middle-class sons, our middle-class daughters, our middle-class schools, and our middle-class salaries. So again, to stay true to ourselves, we corrupt all of these tiny stutters, this unforgivable ugliness, into yet another thing we can conveniently call beautiful. We extract their novelty to tell stories of revolutions in districts we imagine are generations away, when in fact they are only next door. And when the rebellion comes knocking on our doors, flesh and blood, with none of the romance or the novelty we thought it had, we begin crying, ungrateful, disgrace, discomfort. We shut our doors in its face. We retire to sofas in front of TV screens. We want to watch failed rebellions that look like nuclear explosions just so we can say, beautiful.